Hello, hi, hey best friends. Welcome back to Taboo off the bus. Welcome to Taboo off the bus. The bed version of Taboo on the bus where I talk about taboos on the public bus because girl has no shame. Zero shame. No, I actually do sometimes have, not shame, but mega nerves. I was saying this in my YouTube video the other day, but I was saying how I need to listen to Man Eater by Nelly Furtado to like warm up every single time. Actually, today, new song unlocked. Garden of Eden, Lady Gaga, that hyped me up so much. And that, I kid you not, is one of the best episodes I've ever filmed this morning. Did that, got hummus, got one of those anti-pasty olive things, and then now filming this. Had my little snack break. My mouth is on fire though because I didn't realise I'd accidentally bought chili hummus. And I didn't realise the olives and the garlic were marinated in chili. So not only is my breath given insane olive garlic chili, my mouth is actually on fire as well, so thank fuck this is a podcast. Yeah, welcome to the podcast. Welcome back if you've listened before. Hi, if you're new, I'm called Sarah. Real ones know that's not even my name though. Real ones know I made that up for the digital sphere. Can you tell I've not filmed one of these in so long that I'm just chatting so much shit already? But no, thank you so much if you're a repeat listener and you've stuck by in my absolute hiatus. I'm in the last week ever of uni. Dissertation handed in, most coursework handed in, except one whole module, which is all due this Friday. And I'm filming this on Wednesday. I have a whole 20-minute presentation that I've not really started yet, but when I tell you this is the most important thing to me, this really is the most important thing to me. This research and this podcast is so important to me. But you know, a degree really is important as well, and I will lock in. Anyway, did have to like dip off though for a bit to do all my uni work, so thanks for sticking by. To lay the foundations for this episode, we're going to be discussing whether filler, whether Botox, whether like cosmetic procedures for like aesthetic gain is feminist. And then like to lay the foundations for that, this is because I want filler. I've spoke about this on the podcast before, I've spoke about this on YouTube before. I want filler. And I know that is partly the product of social media, of beauty standards, of probably seeing my face a lot as well, and just succumbing to that. But basically I want filler. And I don't do anything, when anything to do with my appearance, I like to do on like quite a drastic scale. I don't really like doing things like subtly or over a long period of time. I go like, this is really quite intense of me, but I like to like go through like insane visual changes, like usually correlating with like different walks, different like chapters of my life. So like coming into like New Year last year, I like went on an insane one, which actually was low-key quite an insane one because I actually had just come off meds. Sorry, the overshare already into this episode, but this is a safe space. And then was like, I need to bleach my eyebrows, I need to get a micro fringe again, and I need to dye my hair red. And I was blonde at the time. And I did all that. I did it all at once. So anyway, where I'm going with that is that I'm going through another one of these periods, specifically in June, because I'm like, I need micro bangs again. I need 22-inch extensions. I need an eyebrow piercing, and I need filler. And I know that's really, really bad and that sounds really intense, and you're going to click on the podcast one day and be like, and who is this? Like, who is that? And it'll be me. And part of that is I want filler. I want my lips done. Dare I say I've been looking at jaw filler, which I know is insane, and everyone around me is like, don't be putting stuff in your jaw. And I have seen people with jaw filler before where it's not been done great. And if not done great, that doesn't look good. That's me like handing you all the groundwork for this episode. Kind of explaining that like in my desire for filler, I have been like questioning it from like a lot of ethical and like moral perspectives, and I obviously come on the bus and voice my like really strong opinions about beauty standards, about women feeling like pressured to like pertain to specific standards, like patriarchal often beauty standards, expectations of women, this like feminine ordeal that's just unrealistic and untrue. And I make like I not even when I say I make videos, like I'm making videos about things that are important to me. It's so important to me to have these conversations and to like try and express how important it is to not feel pressured and to like buy into these whatever these is terms of like beauty standard. But then I'm like, well, this completely negates everything you stand for if you get filler. But at the same time, I'm like, but you'd look fire. For just a little bit of lip filler, you'd look fire. And the issue is, which is often the case, I think, is I feel like this always is a case with things like weight, with things like beauty, with anything under like the aesthetic visual sphere, is you think things look fine on everyone else but yourself. Like it's always a case of like, if you took any parts of me I'm insecure and put them on anyone else, I would be like, and I genuinely would be like, you don't need to change that, like you're perfect as you are, like you're absolutely fine. But when it's yourself, you often are like, well, not you though. not you. And that's how I feel about myself. So I stand by all these opinions on everyone else but myself, and I know that's terrible. So that's the groundwork. Not at all in this episode is this a hate on any individual who gets filler. This is not a hate on Botox, on filler, on cosmetic procedures, on anyone. This is, if anything, attack on this system that like filler is part of. It's an attack and an analysis of the system that upholds like beauty standards, and these are ideals that women feel the need to like pertain to through cosmetic surgery, cosmetic procedures. Also as well, when I'm talking about like procedures, cosmetic surgeries, fillers, Botox, I'm talking about ones for like aesthetic purposes. I'm not talking about, say, like plastic surgery for like medical purposes, for like gender affirming care. I'm talking about your lip filler, your rhinoplasties, your chin filler, your jaw filler, that type of thing. Groundwork laid. Trauma overshared. Major dump on you. If you're still here, take a breather. The first question that really grounds this whole episode is getting Botox, filler, cosmetic procedures feminist? And from kind of a choice feminist perspective, if someone's consented to doing that, if they think it's going to make them feel more pretty, more attractive, more hot, more confident, then surely that's a feminist choice. Like if you're actively making that decision and you think that's going to benefit your life, then feminist choice. And while like choice feminism argues that like any decision made by a woman is feminist, I really will underpin in this episode why I actually think it's not feminist at all. While really the whole system surrounding cosmetic procedures, fillers, Botox is the antithesis of feminist. It's quite anti-feminist and it's quite anti-women. So we'll discuss that. To begin understanding why like filler, Botox, cosmetic procedures isn't feminist, you kind of have to look at the why people are getting it. Like the why people are getting it, the why it's making people more confident, the why it's propelling people socially when they have these procedures and stuff. That is how you begin to understand how it's actually not a very feminist thing at all. Because ultimately when you look at the why people are getting this, it's largely to meet the beauty standard. It's largely to alter specific traits and facial features, say, in order to meet this beauty standard and this like ideal feminine mold that has been created that ultimately oppresses women. Because the beauty standard and like the ideal feminine mold does not celebrate diversity, it does not celebrate authentic features, it does not celebrate the face you're born with and celebrate that. It really pushes like one notion of beauty that is often very white centric and Eurocentric and prioritizes these features. So you can kind of look at this whole like cosmetic procedure system as one that affirms that there's like something inherently wrong with these traits, that these are things that women should be insecure about because they're things that women are changing. And often procedures and fillers like follow the same mold, like it's bigger lips, it's a smaller nose, it's a more chiseled face, it's a more like defined jaw, like it follows a similar pattern, and what this pattern reflects is the beauty standard right now. Obviously this changes, but if we're talking about right now, that seems to be what is in. So when you look at the why, like people are getting these procedures because it's going to make them more confident, it's going to make them feel more hot, yes, but that is only because they'll then be meeting this beauty standard that does ultimately oppress women, because A, it'll never ever be achievable, and B, it's ever changing. So that also then just maintains these systems that there was something wrong with these features in the first place. I think about it from this like standpoint as well of me being online even as well. There's a whole other aspect to me like being iffy and being unsure about getting filler, because ultimately I'm not even just in a position of being a normal person that would walk down the street with lip filler. I'm someone that would come online to 100,000-ish people and essentially be like, and there was something wrong with my lips if I was to get lip filler. There is me coming on. I would obviously never promote it. You would not catch me doing a fucking come and get lip filler with me vlog, like promoting some, like would never ever take that stance. But even me coming on and just having it, inadvertently promotes it in itself and like promotes essentially the idea that there was something wrong with my lips in the first place. And I think then influencers stand in a really, really unique position online where so much of like their presence and their following is built a lot of the times on how they look. To come on and have filler and have work done to your face communicates what you think is like acceptable and worthy for your face, and speaking quite highly of like what you think you should look like, which people will translate to themselves. And that's not to say that like me coming on and say if I got lip filler is like, well, anyone with what my lips before should get lip filler. This is again what I was talking about, how it's always like, well, that's just myself. But it still communicates that even without intentionally doing so. I kind of like write out my episodes a bit, kind of like an essay outline to like keep me on track, because you know I'd ramble. And what I've written here, which kind of summarizes this, is that how can something that is empowering women yet built on the unreachable beauty standards and commodification and harm of women's bodies be feminist? Because ultimately, I don't think those two things can really link in a feminist way, because all of this really is built on beauty standards that largely prioritize youthfulness, femininity, often Eurocentric features, and how it's prioritizing that like one narrow viewpoint of women feminist, because it's not celebrating it inclusively, it's not celebrating it diversely, it is pushing women into boxes. I was speaking about this on the bus, but Botox is like the prime example, like to use here to illustrate this, because some procedures and things that women will get be to get features that other women say already have naturally, like say bigger lips or like one of those like turned up noses, like some women are born with that naturally. Whereas Botox, as a very widely used and popularized procedure, is used to reverse something that happens to women naturally. All women are going to age. All women are going to get wrinkles, to get smile lines, to naturally age in their face, to have creases. That is literally something that you could not run from and will happen to everyone. Not even just women, it happens to everyone in the world. We age, we're humans. And like embed into this beauty standard and like idealized notion of like femininity and youthfulness is to have no wrinkles, to not have smile lines, to look young. You're meant to be fucking 35, 40 and have no wrinkles and have no smile lines. Like in an ideal feminine depiction, that is what she would look like. So obviously women are getting Botox to adhere to these standards, to meet this beauty standard, to meet these expectations of women, to look youthful and to stay looking young. And it's crazy because that is completely unnatural. That is completely unnatural. And if anything, you could argue that, okay, well, getting Botox, freezing your facial muscles, just upholds this system of like pushing that, yeah, women shouldn't age. Women should not naturally age. They should show no signs of aging in their face. Not even just their face. People get Botox everywhere. So yeah, from a feminist lens, you could be like, well, no, that's not very feminist to be like, if you get Botox, to like uphold this system of communicating that no, women, you should not age, because that is literally the natural progression of your face. That is literally the most natural progression of womanhood, would be to go from like girl to woman to like older woman and show that in your face. Not me fucking writing a pun in my notes. Not me writing here, Botox further perpetuates a system that upholds these ideas that aging is bad in women. I'd say frowned upon, but that is very much the antithesis of Botox, because you can't frown. She was feeling crazy last night when she wrote this. Dana Berkowitz, you need to go and research this woman. She is an author and a sociology professor. She does like women and gender studies. She has a book called Botox Nation, where she has like completely like unpacked like this whole phenomena of like cosmetic surgery and Botox and like feminism, and like unpacking like the impacts from like this, basically this lens. And she was saying like a step even further, and this sounds like a reach, but she refers to Botox as an emotional lobotomy. And by that she means like refraining women from being able to make emotional facial expressions, because obviously Botox is like freezing the muscles. Like, you know, when people have Botox and they can't like frown and stuff because your muscles are frozen, like she refers to that as an emotional lobotomy. And what she's talking about there is the way Botox like stops women from being able to like physically express negative emotions such as like anger or frustration or like concern, of which are like traits that women are not expected to like show, to like portray. Like women are expected to be very like amicable, like pleased, like sweet, just like kind of just like calm, plain women. Like that is what's expected of women in a way that is not of men. Like men in our society, they seem to have more leeway to be like irritated and like serious and frustrated and angry. Like it's excused in men in a way that women are not expected to show these emotions and traits. And Botox, once again, like physically like disables women from being able to express these emotions in their face. Not to say that like it stops them from feeling them, but like you will not be able to tell on their face so much, which again is pertaining to how women within society are expected to be perceived and like portray themselves, like not old, like young, youthful, like feminine looking, like not angry, not irritated, just these kind of like, is placid the word? Her work is extremely, extremely interesting. You really should check her out. She's got this like whole other, now I just feel like I'm just like giving away Dana's work, but she has this like whole other correlation, like when she's talking about how like women are expected to be these like sweet, like kind of like calm, like non-negative emotion in their face. She talks about how like the resting bitch face is such like a phenomena for women in a way that men have no equivalent. The resting bitch face for women is something that has been like coined and also like noted as like as a phenomena, like not even as a phenomena, like just as something, like women not having like this like resting polite face has been genuinely noted and coined as something because it's so expected of women to always be looking pleased and happy and like approachable and nice, that when someone, dare I say, frowns or has like a less approachable, whatever you call that looking face, it is coined a resting bitch face in a way that no man has any equivalent of that. She says resting bitch face is nowhere near gender neutral. There is no name for men's serious, pensive and reserved expressions because we allow men these feelings. She says when a man looks severe, serious or grumpy, we assume it's for good reason, but women are always expected to be smiling, aesthetically pleasing and compliant. To do otherwise would be to fail to subordinate our own emotions to those of others, and this would upset the gendered status quo. So Botox completely feeds into this, and not just making women look more youthful, look more young, but also literally look more like a pleasing and like calm and like pleasant. And I will always come back to that if us women grew up in some like sheltered town where we didn't have access to fucking Instagram, we had no access probably even to technology or anyone who had filler, we would not hate any parts of these of ourselves. None of us would hate our wrinkles. None of us would want to eradicate our smile lines. These types of things would not really exist. They're like constructs we've created and systems we've created to oppress women. So no, it doesn't feel feminist to get filler. It doesn't really feel feminist to get Botox, as much as it might empower you, as much as it might make you feel more confident. That's because you're complying to a system that celebrates these traits in women. So yeah, that's my thoughts. You need to check out Dana. Dana will rock your shit with some of her findings. Let me find it actually. She was on like a podcast with The Guardian. It's called When Women's Rights Meet Botox, What Would a Feminist Do? And there's like a 23-minute interview with Jessica Valenti, talking about the aging process and the choices facing modern women. So I recommend listening to that. I really need to, I don't know if I normally do this. I need to like link everything in the description because I obviously overlay stuff normally, but like the actual links so you can just go like read these things. We really can begin to like intersect gender and Botox and filler and cosmetic procedures and look at those links there to understand how feminist it really is. And again, intersectionality is so important when you begin to underpin things from any lens, but specifically a feminist lens. You can look at it from these like lens of gender, also race, also class, also ability. There's a woman called Margaret Hunter who has like a really good paper on this that I was using to kind of underpin this. Her paper is called Buying Racial Capital, Skin Bleaching and Cosmetic Surgery in a Globalized World. I think this is her PhD paper. Again, we'll link a phenomenal read. But what she's discussing when she's referring to racial capital here, which is like important to understand, is like the racial capital associated with white features and whiteness and white skin tones. So what she's talking about is like the economic and social advantages that can come with like obtaining specific features, often ones that pertain to a very like white-centered, Eurocentric beauty standard, and how these features can be bought and obtained through cosmetic procedures because society attaches such high value to specific features. So that can propel you in instances like jobs, in instances like networking, in instances like pay rises, instances socially. Like there's advantages to having specific features, as we kind of know as like pretty privilege, say. There's an article I found literally that was saying that if we're looking at it specifically from a job perspective, that attractive people of both genders are more likely to be invited to job interviews, receive more job offers, and are generally wealthier and more successful than those who aren't quite so gorgeous. If we look at that from like a racial standpoint, often it is very white features that are celebrated, that are included and celebrated within the beauty standard. So what Margaret is saying is how like, yeah, there is social and economic advantages to these features, and that some women of colour are choosing to get cosmetic procedures as a strategic adaptation to systemic inequalities. So what she's saying, and I'm quoting it from here, is that patients of colour are purchasing racial capital through these procedures that they calculate will give them an advantage in the job market, the marriage market, or both. Women of colour are potentially not wanting to get cosmetic procedures but are feeling pressured to in order to propel socially, economically from the advantages that these procedures will give them, as like more of this like strategic adaptation to social inequity that largely is built on these ideologies of racism. So again, we can very clearly say, no, it's not feminist at all to even have these procedures in the first place that are even then seen as an option, seen as something strategic someone can do to propel themselves, instead of putting that focus, putting that work into, say, individual celebration of diversity and intersectionality, instead of trying to, again, fit women into one mold and ultimately women being able to benefit from meeting that mold, which is, again, where you can bring in like a monetary aspect to it. That is something, again, people with more money, more wealth can access in a way that other people can't. Botox is fucking expensive. All these procedures are expensive if they're done properly. So then you can look at it from the case of, okay, well, say middle upper class women can afford to be getting these regularly. People then of lower socioeconomic backgrounds may not be able to afford to obtain these standards in a way middle class, upper class women can, but also could then resort to getting them, but going somewhere more cheaply, going somewhere that's a lot more dangerous. You see multiple women dying from going under the knife, from getting surgeries that aren't done professionally, that are done in dangerous hospitals or done by people that aren't vetted, aren't properly, qualified to be doing these things. In actual fact, it just creates a lot of harm to a lot of women, and likely that'll potentially be more women of lower socioeconomic backgrounds, of people who cannot afford potentially to go and get this done very professionally, but still feel the need to succumb to these expectations and to meet these demands of women because they are so rife. So you really can begin to dissect this from multiple lenses. This is a huge intersectional conversation. So I think we really can then turn to marginalised women from this lens, whether that be from a lens of disability, from race, from class, and understand that such individuals may not want to get cosmetic procedures, may not want to get filler, may not want to get Botox, but in a society that is celebrating these traits on women, and there may be a heightened pressure for marginalised individuals to acquire cosmetic procedure, to acquire these traits in order to obtain like the social advantages that can come with like meeting these standards. I made a TikTok kind of discussing this, and one user, I'll overlay it, she left a really, really good comment which kind of summarises this. She was saying that for those with visible disabilities or neurodivergent, or those who deal with racism, colorism, transphobia, maintaining beauty standards through cosmetic treatments or surgery can be the ticket to being seen as a person worthy of dignity and respect. And what she is talking about there is kind of that pretty privilege, those social advantages, that social capital that can come with obtaining these features, like aligned with the beauty standard, aligned with, again, what I'll say often white-centric standards and features of women. And that such individuals from marginalised communities may not want these procedures, may not necessarily want to have to change their physical features, but may feel pressure to in order to gain those advantages that can come with that. So no, at all, I can sit here on this bed and say, no, it's not feminist. No, it does not seem feminist. No, it is not feminist. It's not inherently feminist. It's anti-feminist, if anything. It's anti-women, this whole system as a whole. And again, this is not individual hate on individuals. And this is not me saying I'll never get filler, but I'm saying I cannot ever get it and think that was a feminist decision, because it's not a feminist decision. As much as it might empower you, it's only empowering you because it's built on these systems that are ultimately oppressing women, that are maintaining beauty standards. So you're empowered because you're getting closer and closer to this like feminine ideal. But like, it is that feminine ideal that oppresses women, and it is largely women of more marginalised communities that is ultimately oppressing. I have like put myself in a predicament, and like I didn't have to make this video. Like I could have got that in silence. You'd probably know if I came on with like filler, but I've been dissecting it myself from a feminist lens, and I think it's really important to come on and have that discussion. And as much as I have like just established that this is not like a feminist choice, it doesn't feed into a feminist system, it's the antithesis of a feminist system, I cannot say I will never get that. But what I will say is that I will never come on and say it was a feminist choice. I will never come on and say it's an empowering choice. And I can recognise that if that empowers me, it's only because it's feeding into that system and I feel closer to a beauty standard. Kind of coming back to what I was saying at the start, like I cannot 100% say I would never get filler. I can't express enough how I will never promote it. I will never celebrate it. I will never come on and say it's empowering. You'll never catch me doing a come get filler with me. I would never promote it. But I understand how I'm in this position as someone, I don't like the word influencer, but you know what I'm saying. Someone as an influencer that even just by having something, I am inadvertently promoting it. I am inadvertently saying that this is okay for me. And I understand like the position I'm in where like people do look up to people online. If my favourite influencer does something, then that tells me, okay, they think that's okay. And to a lot of people that then said to them, well, then that's okay for me to do too because they did it. And I feel in quite a strange position and a strange relationship with filler. And I'll keep the podcast updated. If I come on in a couple weeks in June looking like a different person, look at my lips. I tell you what though, completely unrelated, but I imagine there will be people listening to this with filler. And again, I'll say to you, babe, I'm not attacking you, I'm attacking the system. But what I want to ask, because this is slightly impacting my decision whether to get it or not. And again, this sounds really bad, but does lip filler impact your ability to kiss? Like, I don't know if I've ever kissed someone with lip filler because I actually don't know if I would know or not. Because obviously lip filler makes your lips quite hard. So I'm like, A, am I going to be able to kiss? And B, will I then be a bad kisser? Because if you kiss someone with lip filler, like, is it hard? I know that sounds like such a stupid question. And like, I don't know anyone with lip filler to A, kiss or B, to ask. Low-key, why is that slightly impacting my decision? Like, I don't want to become a shit kisser. So I doubt that is an issue though, because I've never seen anyone talk about that. But I do just kind of want to know. I don't know if that makes me sound incredibly like vapid and like insane to be like, no, I can't get lip filler, what if I'm a bad kisser? But that is something I considered. I really would be intrigued to know your thoughts on this. I really, really enjoyed this. Like I can't express, guys, enough how I need to do a gender and women's studies masters. I need to do it. Like, see, reading that work of Dana Berkowitz, the woman who had that whole thing about resting bitch face and the Botox and the emotional lobotomy, that is what people get to study. That is what people get to lock into a class and study. I need to do that. I'm not going to do it right now. I'm obviously graduating like now. I would fucking love to go into a master's in women and gender studies. I would put class in there as well. No, because we've established this actually. I think I would rather do a master's on like food and class interplays. Food and class interplays or a women and genders master's. I'm there. Can you imagine how fire these episodes would be? Every week, like talking about the stuff I'm learning in class. That's where I need to be. Anyway, I'm not doing that right now. I actually am moving to London. I've been like hesitant to say that online, but like I am. I'm moving to London in a couple months. But I don't see London as a forever place. Like, never at all have I pictured myself like being in London like to grow old. But like, girl, you've only ever been for like max 4 days at once. So who knows? Who knows what opportunities will come when I'm there? Obviously, the podcast and everything is not going anywhere. Well, it's just going on a different bus, but like nothing is changing. But down the line, I would like to return to education and do a women and gender studies masters. I trust the podcast will be thriving then. So if anyone actually has done one, please let me know. If anyone's done any masters that kind of relates to food, class, gender, or women's studies, please let me know. And that'll be the city I'm hitting up. Anyway, I'm going to go edit these, do the uni work that I need to do so that I actually can graduate. Thank you so much for listening. Please feel free to add to this conversation and let me know if lip filler makes you a terrible kisser. Love you. Bye.